Welcome everyone to another 9X tool demo, our very last of the year. So it's obviously a bit sad that we won't have one next week, but we're obviously all very much looking forward to the Christmas break. I'm very excited about the tool demo today. It was probably only very recently that us here at 9X discovered SmartSuite. And I guess from our side, our take that what made this product really interesting, that it's sort of marrying two tools that we use a lot, which is sort of like a cloud database and a task management system. And we've worked with other systems in the past where we're trying to maybe manipulate the functionalities to get the best out of both worlds. So yeah, I'm very excited to welcome Jon, CEO of SmartSuite, today to share his tool with us. So Jon, welcome. Very good to have you here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We appreciate you inviting us and having the opportunity to kind of share our vision, our strategy, maybe a little bit about the backstory, and then more so just a live demo with questions.
Perfect. Yeah, and on that point, so if anyone has questions, feel free to use the chat while Jon's doing his demo. I'll be monitoring that. And we will have, of course, a round of Q&A at the end. But if there's, I guess, questions that might make sense that I ask them to Jon immediately, feel free to use the chat and we'll make sure they all get answered. All right, over to you, Jon.
All right, excellent. I appreciate the opportunity. I'll start with just a little background on kind of the why SmartSuite and tell just a little bit about my story for a couple of minutes to set the stage for that. So kind of early in my career, I was a partner at Ernst & Young. I had the opportunity to run one of their global practices. We had about 1,500 people in that practice. And as a services organization, we were all about packaging up services and delivering those to customers kind of globally. So I learned a lot about process early in my career. So that kind of dictated the journey that I took after Ernst & Young was really process focused. So when somebody talks to me and I have a conversation about things, just in the back of my mind, I'm always breaking that down into a process, right? I'm that kind of person, right? I left Ernst & Young and started a company called Archer Technologies. Archer was a no-code platform that we created I think we started in 2000. There was another tool that started at the same time with a similar approach, which was Salesforce.com with Mark Benioff. We both took a very similar approach to solving a problem. They were focused on sales and marketing. We were focused on what became governance, risk, and compliance for organizations. But we both took this no-code approach, and no-code meaning we allowed what was called citizen developers the opportunity to use drag and drop technology to model out business processes in a way that they can understand. So you didn't have to have a developer write code. You could have somebody just use drag and drop to do that. We thought at that time it was pretty innovative. And it's interesting to see 20 years later that this industry is talking about no code and it's kind of like the next new thing, but it's been around for quite some time. I had the opportunity to sell Archer Technologies in 2010 to one of the big tech players was in the space. Archer is still based in Kansas City, where we founded the company with a lot of the original employees that have been there now 20 years, which is pretty cool. I don't know the exact revenue numbers, but there's somewhere around 700 million a year in recurring revenue. So it's a pretty good size SaaS-based company, the leader in the GRC space currently for that. When I left Archer, I kind of retired for a period of time, did a family foundation, did some interesting things. And the long and the short of it is I have a passion for building software, and I missed working with young, bright, smart people building software. So after about 6 years, I kind of got the itch to get back in. And during that 6-year period, I had the chance to invest in about 400 startup companies. And as I would meet with founders of startups and we would talk about how they're going to begin to scale their business, quite often we would spend our time talking about the infrastructure that they needed, the tools that they needed that would allow them to scale that over time. And to be honest, I got frustrated in the tools that were in the market. There were some great tools, but they only solved like 50, 60% of the problem. Right? I had to put multiple tools together to solve the problem. So the vision for SmartSuite was to give organizations the ability to have a single platform to manage any process or project in their organization. Right. And the reality of the situation is that most organizations, most employees in an organization use somewhere between 5 and 7 different tools to kind of do their job each day. Our vision is to limit that to 1, 2, maybe 3 tools that you need to use, with SmartSuite being maybe one of the dominant tools that goes across most processes. But we also we've built in quite a series of integrations into our platform that if you'd like to use Salesforce or HubSpot or Bamboo or Zendesk, you can integrate with those with us. We can share information back and forth very quickly as well. The price points for SmartSuite, we have a free plan for up to 3 users. You can try it till you love it, so you don't have to pay for anything. Our team plan is kind of our entry point. It's $10 per user per month. We have a professional plan at $24, and then we scale up to our enterprise plan at $42. That's there, just to kind of set the scale of where we're at. And that's kind of the backstory. So I just wanted to maybe just jump in and start a demo, if that's okay.
Perfect. Yeah, let's do it. Thanks a lot for the background. Super interesting.
All right. So clear the screen here. A couple of things to know about SmartSuite. The first of which is the company's been around for about 3 years. We spent the first 2.5 years with about 100 developers building the core technology, which is kind of unusual in the space. Most people do an MVP in 6 months and they iterate on that. We felt that that was not a great approach for the problem that we were trying to solve, because we couldn't solve the problem with 60% of the problem being solved. I mean, we had to have the feature and the tool set to really solve the problem. So it took us 2.5 years to build that core technology. We launched about 6 months ago. You can think of SmartSuite as a combination of a relational database meets productivity tools. So think of like Notion, Coda, ClickUp, Monday, Asana meets Airtable, ServiceNow, right? Those capabilities all in one place that's there. So when we talk process and project, we mean relational database and the productivity tools kind of coming together. What you're seeing here on the opening screen, these tiles that you're seeing here are what we call solutions. A solution is typically a process that you have, like, I need to manage my blog or my podcast, maybe board management, maybe business continuity plans, or I have more project related things like agile projects, things where you track people and due dates and assignments, those types of things that are there. These items that you see at the top here on my favorites, I've just went at the bottom and you click on the star here. When you click the star, it adds it into your favorites. So this is kind of your personal place to work. A lot of the larger companies that we work with, they may have 50, 60 different processes that they manage inside of the company, but maybe I'm only really related to a handful of those that I work on my day-to-day that's with. We do a few interesting things on the homepage. For each user has the ability to kind of come in and customize the homepage to them. Sounds pretty simple, but from an end user perspective, this is one of the most requested features that we have on the homepage, was just more customization to make it feel personal to them. What you see on the side here is just a list of resources that are always available. I can collapse that, just kind of get it out of the way. And then for some period of time, once you start your trial with us, we give you information on upcoming webinars that we think might be interesting to help get you up to speed, but I can also turn that off here as well. So to dive into a solution, I'm going to go into project management first, just to kind of set the stage of a project versus a process that's there. What you're seeing here on the page is the name here. What the solution name is, project management. I can click on this name here to kind of see a list of the different options if I'm the creator of this solution that I could use to manage the solution. I can change the color very quickly to a different color. I could change the icon that I'm using that displays in different places in the product. I can add a solution guide, which communicates to my end users how to use this particular solution, or really the process that we have in place in the company. I can set permissions, I can do automations, I can integrate with things like Zapier and Make. We have a built-in API, just all kind of the things that you need to manage are here. Underneath the solution, these tabs here are called applications. An application is just a collection of fields. Think of it as a table in a database. I'm just collecting information, in this case, about a client and the project that we have. I'm associating that back to tasks that have milestones, that have deliverables. So I can link tables, I could link client projects to tasks or milestones, and there's no limitation on the things I can link to. And not only can I link to other apps that are in this solution, I can link to apps that are in other solutions that are in my account. So if I come back home here and say, for some reason, I wanted to link to the accounts app that's in Sales CRM for some reason, I can still do that from inside of project management. Again, since we're a relational database. So what you're seeing here is just a view. This is a grid view that we're looking at. I've selected a series of fields inside of this app to actually display in this particular view. If I wanted to change that, I just click on fields to display, and this shows me all the selected fields. I have 13 that are being displayed, and this shows me everything else that's available. If I wanted to add maybe the last updated date and a list of milestones, it's that simple, and it adds that those two columns over here for me. So I have the ability to actually save this view. So this is projects by stage. So this view is independent of maybe if I click on projects by stoplight status, this has all the same fields that are in the app, but maybe I've selected different fields to display in this particular view that I have. So we allow you to have, as many different views as you would like. We also allow you to have different view types. So this is a grid view. I could change the view type here to card view with just a single click. I could change it to a Kanban view. The data here, I've got too many fields, so I'd want to kind of turn these off, but I just want to show the concept. Kanban is all about, more project management and just moving things around to change statuses. I could do the same with the calendar, a timeline, a map, a chart, a dashboard. So I can change that on the fly, or I could come in here and I can create a new view, and I could create a card view from scratch, and it just takes me through the steps. Okay, what do you want to name it? I say card view is fine. It says, okay, what fields do you want to have displayed? Maybe I just say I want a budget, a number, and it builds my cards for me. I can rearrange my information that's here. I can do that for all of these different view types that you're seeing here, including dashboards and forms that are there. So I'll go back to the original where I started at with projects by stage, put this back to grid view. We also provide the ability to sort, to filter, to group by. Any of the fields that are in here come up, and I can use that as a group by. So maybe I want to group by the status report or the stage of the project. It's that simple to change the information that's here. I can also share this information that I have here outside of the company if I'm a creator and have rights to do that. So I can click share, and now I can determine who I can send this link to, and I can determine if this link requires a password, if they can export the data, if all the fields, if they can see all the fields when they drill into the record that's there as well. All right, so those very quickly are some of just the basics that's there. So let's kind of drill into some of the interesting pieces now that I understand what an app kind of looks like. To add a field, another field of information that I want to collect, I can, from a grid view, I can just click on the plus sign that's here. I see a list of 44 different field types that are available in SmartSuite. If I wanted to get a little more in-depth to kind of learn about each one, I could just click on this Explore All. And now this shows all of the field types with a quick description if you're just kind of new to SmartSuite and you're getting up to speed. So we have, the basic things like text and dates and times and values and sliders, emails, phones, those types of things. We have more collaboration type fields where you can add ratings, you can add votes where people can individually vote on things, you can add tags. I'll show you our social network field in just a minute where you can track different social networks for a contact that's there. We have more of the project essentials, which are more project management productivity tools where I want to assign things to people that have a due date, that maybe have a duration. I'm tracking their percent complete with the status. Maybe I have sub items or a checklist. Maybe I'm tracking time by person on those particular activities with the time tracking feature built in, and then more advanced features with formulas and counts, roll-ups, buttons. We do some fun things with signatures, more security stuff around IP addresses, those types. If I wanted to add a new field type, it's as simple as picking the field type from here. So I say I want to add a single select field type. It says, okay, what do you want to name it? I'll just keep it single select one. It says, okay, how do you want to display this particular field? So in almost every one of our field types, we give you 3 to 4 display options for the data for that particular field. So I could say, I want to display that with a color dot and the name inside of a pill. I could say I want it to be just a solid color pill. I could say I want to add an icon next to this. We give you the ability to then pick from a series of icons and emojis, pick the color that you want that to be. Maybe I want to do that here, maybe show that in green, add the value, or I could show just a text value. if I want to here as well. So I'm going to go back to just the color dot as the example. In this case, to add choices, I could just add a few choices here. Once I save this, it then puts that back in the record, and I can click directly in here and actually select from the values that I selected. So all 44 of our field types follow that same approach. If I would come in and say, let's do like an address field that's here. You can see on address fields, there's two different types of formats. I can do things in a single line, or I could break it out into multiple lines where I'm breaking out each individual component. I can choose to do things like display a map each time that this address is displayed inside of the record that actually shows the location that's there. When I add the field, it just added it, but since I selected multiple address, when I click in, it allows me to actually have all these individual fields associated with this one field that's here as well. We call that a compound field type. And now when I see that particular field in places like fields to display, if I look at the address field, I could pick just the address field and have it displayed, or I could say, I just want the street, the city, and the state. And when I did that, you'll notice that it added just those fields that are here. And if I would come in here, type in an address, it looks up the address for me. When I say done, it pulls the address in, but you can see then it auto brings in the details for these compound fields. So we have quite a number of field types that are built specifically that way. So what's a little different about SmartSuite from some of the other players that you'll see in the market on field types is the volume of field types that we have. We have 44. Most of the people in the space have somewhere between 16 and 20. We do specific data validation on each field type. So they're not just text fields. Like if it's an email field, we validate that it needs to be a valid email. If it's a number, a date, a time. So we help you ensure that you get good data kind of brought in from the beginning. To access these items, we call these individual items here records. I can click into one of these records here to see all of the fields that are in the app on a single form. So in this case, I'm looking at client projects that's got a name, a stage, a progress that I'm manually keeping. I could automate this as well. That's there. I'm tracking a due date that's there. I could have a time and a date range associated with that. I'm selecting a project manager. These are people inside other members of the workspace that you can select from that have access to this particular solution that's here. Kind of on and on. What's unique here that you'll see is that the first thing is if I'm the creator, I can just drag and drop and move these fields around to organize the information on this particular record exactly the way that I want to see it. I can also add sections. So in this case, I've just added a section called project management. If I go down towards the bottom, you'll see I have some additional sections. I have the ability to determine if these sections are open or closed by default. A lot of times it's pretty common that you'll see one or two sections of information at the top with kind of limited like general information. And then you'll add a lot of the detail that's not needed every time somebody comes to this form, kind of in sections. And then I can click here and say if I want this section to be open or closed by default that's there. To open it, you just simply open up the section name that's here. This here is an example of a linked record field type that is linking from the client projects app to the task app that's here. So I'm going to click on field settings here, say modify settings to kind of show you this linked record field type. This particular field type does the same thing. We give you multiple display options on how you want to display it from a compact view, a simplified view, kind of a standard, and then the extended. Right now it's extended. So if I change that to compact and updated this, you notice that it just changes the display format here. So maybe I like it to be a little cleaner versus having all of the details that I was looking at prior. So if I move it back to the extended or the expanded display, in this case, it actually shows the field values on the second line. This is handy when I'm looking back into the project task app and I'm pulling, these are actual records that are linked there. And I can bring back as much information as I want about the record. So I can pick these particular fields that are showing up here if that's interesting. If I wanted to access that field, I just click, or that record, I just click. Now I'm inside of that record. I could look at it, make updates, save it, close it, and then I'm right back to the original record that I was in. The next element that we allow for is for you to actually change the style of this page. We give you currently 3 different selections from this, so I can pick on page settings. Right now, I'm looking at a page that's in a 50/50 format, but I could also extend some of the elements to go across the whole page. Maybe I wanted to have more of a Airtable or Monday.com kind of view that's a single column that's a little smaller. So here we allow you to do the same thing on single column. And then one that's growing in popularity is our 70/30. It allows you to take some of the smaller fields, put them on the right, some of the larger format fields, put them on the left. A lot of people that do task management type stuff like to kind of see this information in this format. I don't have this organized in a great way by just flipping over, but we could make this feel a lot better than what it does here right now. So I'm going to change it back to the 50/50 just to kind of show some of the core concepts that are here. A few other interesting things is that inside of each individual record, I can click on comments. I can actually have a conversation inside of this record or have a conversation that's specific to this record. So think of it as a Slack channel that's specific to this Web 2.0 project that is underway. I can come in here and I can reply to existing comments that are here. I could start a conversation with the new comment, and I could say, hey, @Tara, and I could mention somebody. I could ask them to do something. The system's smart enough to know that when we see an @mention, it says, okay, do you actually want to assign this as a task that's here? So I could say, yep, I want to notify her, but also I want to assign it as a task. Now it just notified Tara, and when anybody else logs in, they'll see this work item and they can participate in this discussion, but this is actually assigned to Tara for her to mark as complete or resolved at some point. That's it.
And Jon, just a question, because you mentioned, so you showed before that you also have a tasks table. Is what you just created linked to that task table, or there's another layer? Like you've just created a mock table called tasks, and then these comments with a sign is a separate layer to that?
Yeah. Perfect question. That's exactly where I'm headed. So there's 4 different levels of tasks that are built into SmartSuite that I wanted to kind of go through. And the way that we do that is anytime that you combine a due date and a status together, and a due date, a status, and an assignment, we know that should be a task, right? And I could set this combination of fields up in any app that I have. So I'm going to exit out of here. So any of these items that I have across any of the apps across the top could have elements of an assignment, a due date, and a status. The system automatically understands that and says, okay, that's now a task the way you've set it up. And each user can log into their My Work. And this will accumulate all of the tasks from every app across every solution in one place for that particular user. So they'll see things based on due date, or I could change it based on priority or status or solution. I could organize this however I want, but this is one place that you can go to see everything that you've been assigned. We have a second level. I'll go into task here, open one up. We have a field type called a checklist field type. I'll click in here to modify. A checklist basically allows you to come in and have a listing of things that need to get completed. I could pick the color that I want the checklist items to kind of be displayed that's there. I can say, can users create new checklist items, or is this just a checklist that I don't want any edits to, that I just want people to sign off on? When I come into a checklist item, I have the ability to actually, enter the description. It has full HTML, rich text capabilities as you're putting this in, but I can also assign this item a due date and a person, right? Or not, right? I have this new task that's down here. Maybe I don't want to assign that to somebody. As I complete these items, the system automatically tracks the stat or the percentage complete of that element, and then displays that information back in all the reports that you're looking at. It also, if I save this record, if I go back into My Work, I just assign those items. You can see that this takes me right back to that particular record, and here's the item that I'm assigned to. So that's the second level you can do. A third level is we have something called sub items. which basically allows you to select fields to be included in a sub record. You can kind of think of it, and you can include those same task level fields there, so you can track at the sub item level. And then we also do that for you inside of the comments piece. So there's 4 different ways that we can allow you to track and manage tasks. The most important thing to comprehend is that anytime that you combine a status field with a due date and an assignment, we know that that is at that point that becomes a task for us, and you can actually display that in my work.
Cool. And so is there a different field between date and due date? Like, is there, to avoid, I guess, because I'm thinking if you were to set this up like an account management tool, and you have your leads coming in, that obviously has a lead owner, and maybe you have a lead created date. Is there things in place to avoid them showing up in your tasks?
It is. So there's a number of things we can do. So that's a good question on the difference between a date and a due date. The difference is when you say something has a due date, we will start tracking if that has been completed or not completed for you. So you can see in this case, I'm using it instead of just a normal date field. I said, hey, give me the due date capabilities. So this is saying that this item is actually marked as complete. It was marked as complete 38 days prior to the due date. So I have a little history to know kind of when. And then in this case, it's well overdue. But if something is overdue, when you're looking at any of the view types or reports or records, we'll show you the number of days that this item is actually overdue. So if I click into this record, let's move forward here so I can, it's not been so far away. So you can see here, it's telling me it's 21 days late currently. So we just try to add those little things to help you manage very quickly, just visually looking at items that you've been assigned that are there. I can also go into the due date. You can see that this is linked to this particular status field. So I could have multiple due dates that are in a record. You're not limited to one, and you can pick which status fields, and you could have multiple status fields that are associated with something relates back to that. So in reality, I could have 3 or 4 different task assignments happening in the same app based on the combination of field values that I have here. Let me see if I can give you a good example of that. I'm going to just jump over into our own instance of SmartSuite that we use in our company. And I'll show you something on our product roadmap that's here. So I'll go into product management. So we use our own product to manage every project, every process and project that's inside of our company. This is just a list of our strategic roadmap, kind of where we're at right now with things that we're working on. If I was to click into a particular item, I could kind of see the details of what that is. And you can see here, we have different statuses for design, requirements, approvals, implementation, but also on this page this year, I've included each of those statuses here. So we're kind of using this as a work queue of what's been done. Different people on the design team have a different due date than the requirements team, then kind of the overall approval and the implementation that's there. So it's just a good example of how I can combine as many things together as I want. That makes sense. And one of the things I failed to comment on when we started is that if you have access to more than one account workspace, you could just click here. We show where you're at, and then it will show all of the other accounts that you have access to. You can just flip between accounts very quickly. I'll flip over to Sales CRM to show you kind of the same type of concept, but more of a process-driven process. So in this case, I have just a list of accounts that are linked back to contacts. Opportunities are linked to both accounts and contacts. And then I have a listing of sales materials and resources that are there. All the same concepts that I just kind of talked about with the way the information can be organized on the page, the different field types and such related here. One thing to note about our comments panel is here in in January, we'll also have the ability not just to have a conversation internally, but I can actually include emails. So I can attach my email and I could have conversations with customers about this particular work element, and all of the email will be embedded here as a tile, and any replies back to that email will come into this particular record as well. So just an easier way to kind of manage conversations, internal and external. And then we also provide activity history for every record. So we track the date, the time, and the person for every change to every field in that record. And we give you the beginning value and the end value. So you can see, like here, I added myself as an account manager, and I changed the size of the company. So we give you the prior value and the current value. The two. All right, I'm going pretty quick, but hopefully you kind of understanding the basics of, I have a solution, I have apps, I have fields inside of a solution. I can organize those, and then I could link things together inside of my solution. If I want to permission my solution, I just click on permissions. We give you 3 basic options. Each solution has its own permissions, meaning the person that the admin or the creator of the solution determines who has access rights to this. So I could come in and say, everybody in my account, I want to have access to this, and they can read, write, and delete content. I could say, I only want these particular teams to have access. And I could say maybe just sales or marketing or HR that I've set up. Or I could come in and do traditional permissions where I could say either this person or this team has this level of rights. So if I came in here, pick myself, full access means, hey, I have the ability to read, write, and delete content inside of this solution. I can then start taking it down. And what we do that's a little different is we give you record level permissioning. So if I pick the assignee field type, it will look back at the assigned to field that we have. And if that person is listed in the assigned to field, they'll have the ability to see that record. If they don't, that record will not be shown to them. So let's think of if you're an agency and you have customers that are coming in and you're managing lots of tasks around customers, and you want each customer to see just the things you're working on for them, you could turn this on for the customer, and they would not see anybody else's content in this particular solution, just the things that they're assigned to as well. You can do the same thing with a contributor and an editor, just different levels of record permissions. There's a commenter role where it's read-only, but they can actually add comments at the records that I just showed you, or a view-only role that means they can just view data, but they can't comment or make any updates to things. So permissions this is the first level of permissions that you have in place. The second level is that if you wanted to go down to the record level, to the app level, I could set permissions at the app that are different than the solution as well. So if I needed to give, like, everybody has mainly access up here or to the solution, but I wanted to take away or refine some things just for this one app, I could do that. And I could also do the same thing at the field level. So I could come in and say, and this gets released here in 2 weeks. You'll have the ability to come in for a particular field and say, I only want these particular users to be able to view this field, or anybody can view it, but only these 3 people can edit this particular value that's there. So for permissioning for us is we do this at the solution level, at the app level, at the record level, and at the field level. So we give you all 4 options for that. From an automation perspective.
Well, maybe John, just one question while we're on the sorry. First of all, the assignee level permissions is something that's an amazing feature, which I think a lot of other tools are missing. So that's kudos on that one. With regards to permissions, so what we've obviously seen is there's so many options. You mentioned the different field types that you have, and it seems like there's a ton of customizability within SmartSuite. I guess the one drawback of that is maybe for someone new to these type of tools, that can be a bit overwhelming, and it shouldn't be that everyone has access to changing this up. Do you already have any gut feeling or feedback from customers? Like, what's the best setup in terms of managing bases? Is it that only one person should be a creator, or that should, in bigger teams, there should almost be a DevOps person handling this? What feedback have you already gathered in that area?
Yeah, most processes that we have 2 to 3 what we call creators, which you can think of as a solution manager. So those are the people that have the ability to come in and actually add fields, remove fields, set up views, configure the process the way that you want people in the organization to use it. End users then that come in just consume that information. They can create reports and their own private reports, but they can't create new field types, those types of things. They're inside of the process that you've created. Most companies that set up access permissions go to the second level first. and say, if you don't want if you're a team of 100 and this is a sales process, you might not want all 100 people to have access. So it's really simple to come in here and say, I just want the sales team to have access that's here. That's the most commonly used one that gives everybody on the everyone on the sales team full access to all of the data that's here. If you didn't want every sales rep to see every other sales rep's deals that's there, that's when things like the advanced permissions come in, and I could come in and say, I want Brian to be an assignee. And now it just said Brian as a sales rep will just see his deals, but that's it. And then I could come in here and say that I want Emma, I want her to have full access because she's a manager that's there. So it allows me to kind of mix and match when you come into the advanced if you don't want everybody having the same level. That, what I just showed you here, covers like 90% of what our customers use for permissioning inside of SmartSuite. Our enterprise accounts that have much larger user groups and want much more granularity and permissions, they'll also set permissions at the app level, which is common. By default, the apps just inherit the permission from the solution unless you change it. And then the next level down is the field permissions, which will be released here in about a week. And there's a few cases where this is used by normal companies. Let's say you have an HR solution and you have a compensation field type, and you don't want people to actually be able to view that field by person, but they can see all the other information for a particular employee. You can actually just set that to where they don't have any view access. So that field would not show up anywhere. So that user would they look in fields to display or sort or filter, whatever it might be, that field's just gone. They won't see that like it's even there. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah,
okay.
super useful. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Automations are something that is kind of the new buzzword in the no-code space. An automation is just a way to automate some of the routine tasks that people manually do day to day. It can be a little more advanced than that if you want it to be, but to set something up as an automation, the first thing you say is, when do I want this thing to happen? We call that a trigger. So I could say that each time a new record is created in the accounts app, then I want to perform this action that's here. So I could say I want to create a new record based on this record being created. I could update another record, maybe a status. Maybe I want to send an email notification to somebody to say that this record was created and I need them to follow up. But I could also then begin to integrate with third-party systems. So these three elements here are all related to SmartSuite. Now we start to give you options to do things in other products. So maybe you want to send an SMS message to somebody notifying them of something that's happened. So in this case, it's Twilio. So you just link to your Twilio account. I don't have an account on this particular computer to link to, and you tell it what fields and what information you want to include in the text message. I could do the same thing with Slack. So I just select add my Slack account, tell it I want to pick these 4 fields, and every time a new record is created, it also sends a message into the Slack channel. Maybe you have customer support tickets and you want to notify management of high priority items. So you would set this to say that when the priority is high on this, then send a notification, or maybe action is required. You could do the same thing using your own Gmail account to send out Gmails. You could add rows into a Google Sheet. You can connect your Outlook account. You could add calendar events into a calendar. Outlook calendar is coming very soon. We are working on right now 20 different integrations that you'll see with other products. These are what we're calling the top 20 list of what our customers have asked for, or that we're seeing that they use most often when integrating Archer with other products, or SmartSuite with other products. What's coming here next week, I'm surprised it's not here today, is Salesforce, which was just approved, and HubSpot, or the next 2 that will be released. So let's just say I wanted to send an email, so I could show you the concept that's here. So you just, in this case, you just come in, you pick who you want to send the email to. You can either type in a name, or you can actually pick a field that's in the record. So in this case, I could say fields from trigger means the fields that were in the record that were created. So I could say, okay, the person that actually created the record, I want to send a message. You can build the subject, you could type in a subject, or you could build the subject from fields that are there as well. So maybe I wanted to pull in the account name, add a space, and maybe pull in maybe an auto number. So it will pull information from the record as the title. I can do the same thing for the message. I could write the message. I can embed fields here. It could say dear, and I could, or hi, and I could say John, the person that created the record, their first name, and then the text. I could add attachments, lots of different options. I don't need to get into all the details, but automations are just a fun way to automate kind of the routine work that happens day to day.
Jon, you mentioned two integrations there, which stood out, obviously Salesforce and HubSpot, and I guess that's a large part of the business community would be on those tools at the moment. As opposed to like pushing data to those tools, is there anything planned to actually get data from those tools into SmartSuite? Because I guess that's probably will be a big helper for people get new to the tool that want to actually automate some processes on top of Salesforce or HubSpot.
Yeah, so you'd be able to do two things with that using an automation. The first of which, we're also setting those up as triggers. So if a new entry is added to Salesforce, we could actually then create a new record in SmartSuite and add that information that's there. We'll do that through all of the different integrations that I just showed you, including we're working on accounting packages, QuickBooks and Xero, and I think Zoho, there's a number there. Other marketing automation tools, MailChimp is in that list as well. And then we'll also have what is coming. We are working on it now, will be released towards the end of the first quarter, is a complete sync capability. So I will be able to go in at the application level. There'll be a menu option here to pick your sync source. All of those same sources that I just showed you, let's say if it's Salesforce, it will allow me to then select a module in Salesforce, the particular fields that are there. And every time that data is updated in Salesforce, it will automatically update those same fields in SmartSuite. And there's no limit on the number of sources that you could use, meaning I could pull data in one app from Salesforce, HubSpot, and Intercom, if that made sense, and be repopulating all of these different fields for you.
That's something that would just be on the enterprise plan, or it's also available on the lower plans as well?
Where it's available for every plan type.
Amazing.
Yeah, I failed to mention that at the beginning. Like, part of our vision is we want to bring enterprise level software to the masses at a price point that's not been done prior. Meaning we hate it when I have to always upgrade to the next version of the plan to get that one feature that I know I need, to come in. Like, maybe I need a Kanban. Do I really have to pay for the enterprise plan to be able to have a Kanban board versus, the initial plan? So our thought process is we're going to give you pretty much every feature that we have. There's a couple of exceptions with things like single sign-on and some of the advanced permissions. Everything else is available in every plan, and then it's just usage-based. So we have rules or limits on the number of records that you can collect. So it's based on people and then usage that's there.
Very generous. Amazing.
Yeah, let me show you just a couple more things and we'll kind of close out the demo here. The first I want to show you is that's a big hit with quite a number of clients is a built-in member directory. So every user that you've given access to your workspace has a user profile that's set up. Any user can click up here to determine, to see that list of members. If I'm an admin, I can click here on settings and I can determine what users can see here. So in this case, I'm saying, hey, everybody can see every profile. I could say I only want people to see the profiles of the teams that they're on. So if I'm on the sales and marketing team, I only see other sales and marketing, or I could do it by email domain as well. The reason for the second two, or if you are sharing this, you're sharing your workspace with people outside of your organizations, like customers, maybe you don't want the customer to see everybody in your organization. You have the ability to kind of limit that. But if I go back here to all, maybe I'm interested in, okay, what's Billy up to? Who is Billy? So this is kind of her profile that she's filled out, that she's one of our junior designers. She has general access to the product. She's based in Bulgaria. She has a chance to fill out kind of her personal profile and add biography, certifications, different things that you can do here. This is all really interesting for agencies, professional services firms, because I can come up here now, and if I was looking for, let's see, I'm going to type in fitness just because I know it's here, but assume that this was like a particular certification or somebody that had PHP skills. We just searched through the entire directory, all this information, and found that just Emma, has a tag for fitness that's there. So it's used quite often with professional services firms or agencies looking for skill sets on their team for projects. It just happens. You don't have to set up a solution apps. We built it in. You can also, we built in a number of different report types that are the most common. A simple one is you want to see a list of birthdays in the organization for the people that wanted to share their birthday. Yeah, you can kind of celebrate those by month. You want to see a list of people by company. Maybe you don't have, maybe you have customers that are coming in. So you can see, in this case, a list of people in your account, but you also have Collective, which is a customer that's there. I could see a list of people broken down by department, maybe by team, if I wanted to see who's online. So we try to build in a lot of things just to make it really easy for you to find and collaborate with people without needing to create anything extra. When somebody signs up for SmartSuite, fills out their information, edits their profile, we then share it here, and each person can edit their profile by just opening this up, clicking on their profile. They have the ability to kind of set their cover image. We give you lots of options to pick from, or you can kind of upload your own. It's interesting to see that some people update their profiles every couple of days. That's there. They add vacation pictures or fun things about them that kind of makes it more personal. They have the ability to set an availability status. So I could say, on vacation, this week. And when I set the status, I can say when I want it to clear. So maybe I don't want it to clear until the end of the week. Now, anytime that somebody views my profile anywhere and clicks into that, so I come back into the directory, it's going to say right here, very clear, hey, John's on vacation or he's in meetings. So it's just a way to kind of keep people updated if you want to, as quickly as you can. And then here's all just the base information that you can share. If you want to edit this, you just click edit and kind of see, this is all up to the individual user on how much information they would like to share inside of your company. The last item that I'll show you is just a search capability. So Power Search allows you to search across every field and every record and every solution that's in the account. So if I came in here and said, I'm just going to type in John, and it's saying, all right, here's all the records that have John as an assignment. There's no files that have the name John associated with it, and there's one member profile associated with that. So it allows me to very quickly search through hundreds of thousands of records. I can click and it takes me right into that particular record for me to access that if I would want to. And I hope that wasn't too overwhelming. It was a lot of information in 40 minutes, 45 minutes. So
that was amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any specific questions, comments?
Yeah, so anyone else, feel free to use the chat. I've got a question straight off the bat.
Okay.
What I've noticed a lot working with, and whether it was companies I was working at or now with other clients, is the task management tools that I guess maybe would be more your main competitors, like Mondays and Asana, tend to be used by let's say the business half of the business. So marketing teams managing their content and all this sort of stuff, or whether it's HR managing events and this sort of thing. And then there's I've noticed this big disconnect going to the tech and product team, and it's very hard to get them away from their Jira environment. And I've always found it so baffling that you have half, and then especially for then collaboration between the two, let's say tech need marketing, then you have some marketing users getting access to Jira and some not, and it's a big mess. Is that something you're actively trying to address? Is it something that even can be addressed in your opinion?
Yeah, we definitely think it can be addressed. I failed to mention that Jira is one of the integrations on our automations and sync as well. That's there for that very reason. That's pretty commonly used product that's there. What we typically find happens in SmartSuite is that people that find us are either process people or project people looking for a tool. they find us, and then they very quickly realize that a process can be a project at the same time, meaning I have a project like sales, but when I get to the opportunities application, I actually want to assign an opportunity to a sales rep that has a status and a due date and an outcome that's there. So I'm kind of combining both of those together for the first time. So a lot of this is new, meaning I have a relational database coupled with project management capabilities in the same solution. And then this is where it really comes out. I wish I had better data here to show you, but as a person would log in, maybe it's a person on the marketing team. They're involved in 4 or 5 different marketing processes or projects that they're getting assigned things to. It's hard to go into each individual one every time to pick out what you need. This pulls all of that together in one place. So I can see what's scheduled for me right now, or I could look, past things that I've closed. The most common request here that we have that we're working on right now is you'll be able to actually switch this to see other team members or teams of people. So if you're managing a team, you'll be able to see everybody's, maybe work for the week, what's overdue, and you can click and manage due dates and assignments right from here, as well as going into the actual, solution or app to do that.
Got it. Cool. So I guess based on that, then, like, since you're planning an integration with Jira, maybe your advice, like, let's say to more the product people listening to this, is maybe not trying to fight the tech team and take Jira away and replace it with SmartSuite, but if it's something they're used to and like using, rather use those automations to sync the data between the two.
Exactly. So there's a couple of hubs that are kind of in the market. You look, HubSpot being one, Salesforce, Jira, right? Those are big implementations that people have spent a lot of time and effort on. And we're trying to say we can do those things, but if you're happy with that, you can use us for this and we'll just integrate and we share the same data. You don't have to duplicate the information across the 2 places, or you don't have to write custom code using an API to do the integration. Most of the time you can set up an automation in 3 to 4 minutes is our goal. And then you're ready to go.
Amazing. Nice. We've got a question from Vaskin from the audience, or 2 questions. So first of all, are there any plans of being able to chat with members beside the comments? So having sort of like a Slack integrated within SmartSuite, I guess. And then he was also asking for any planned integrations with Webflow.
Okay, I'll take the Webflow first. We don't have anything currently with Webflow. I don't think we even have that in we have a public roadmap that you can access. And I tell you what, if you're on the homepage here and you want to see our roadmap that you're in, you can just come in and take a peek at our public roadmap at any time, and you can vote and comment on things that are there. There we go.
Nice.
And so you can see the votes, the comments of everything that's there. I don't think Webflow has actually been entered as an integration source, but that's something we can do today and start tracking people that's there. Just the first question again was on the... if there's any plans to be able to chat with members within SmartSuite, yes, apart from the comments section. Yeah, that has been requested quite often. So we're looking at a private chat capability. Think of it like channels that you have in Slack, where you could set up a channel for the sales team or the marketing team. We've got a couple of ways to do that. I didn't show you dashboards, but let me just, if I go to create a dashboard can be anything that you want it to be. And it's just a collection of information that is kind of widget driven. So let me close some of this. So if I wanted to add a new widget, I just click here and you can see all the different widget types, from metrics and charts and graphs and conferencing tools, design tools, embeds, Google embeds. This is where we would be adding that particular capability. And you could click it here, and then inside of your dashboard, I'm just going to pick text block to show the concept. You can make this as big or as little as you want. So this can basically be an embed to another product or system. And it's just inside of your SmartSuite account, and you just click here inside of your views to access that information. Nice. And I think a question from Piv, my co-founder at 9X.
Hi, Jon. First, really congrats on the product you built. It's very impressive.
Oh, thank you.
To give you my impression, we with Jan and Alex, my co-founder, we decided to start things and start this company in no code and automation. And I first, when we went there, I was always looking for, with Jan before, we used to work with Salesforce, and we had a very, I think in the previous company we had something which was very special. I think it was good and bad at the same time, but we used Salesforce as our database.
Right.
And since then, I was like, I've been looking for something that would be the same as Salesforce, but just cheaper, obviously, and more accessible and more modern. Like Salesforce, but in the kind of the
Right.
like in the 2020 stack. I think that's what you did here. So first, like kudos, it's amazing. On that part, like how do you position yourself? Like what problem are you solving? What are people like? What's your perfect customer? Like is it like I have a feeling it's someone who wants to basically build his whole operating system somewhere, and that's as you said, it's both a mix of database, a relational database, and task management, and that's what you are. Is that what you're aiming for?
It a little bigger than that, but we have quite a number of customers that fit that mold. So we have customers that are 1 or 2 people startups to Fortune 500 companies.
Yep.
We have a $50 billion hedge fund that manages real estate assets using our platform, right? What we found is it's pretty interesting is that most people come to us with a single process that they have that they need to automate in their organization. That's how they find us. And then what happens is we very quickly, you can see the marketing team started with us and then the sales team saw it and they're like, oh, wow, I could do this, right? And it begins to grow to manage more processes inside of the business. Our goal is to be that one hub that can manage any core process. When you talk about Salesforce, HubSpot, Jira that we've talked about already, our goal was to give you 90 to 95% of those capabilities and those other products directly in SmartSuite. We're not going to be every detail that Jira has, but we're going to have, all but maybe 5 to 10% of that. For a lot of people, that's what they need. And the integration between the data is more important than those last 5% of features. But if they want Jira, we're trying to say that's perfectly fine. We're not trying to, we want to be a very open framework that makes it very easy to integrate with those outside products that's there. But how most people find us right now is they have a single project or process. And then during the first discovery of the first 2-3 days, they understand what's capable and more people kind of start joining in on the trial that they've set up.
Super nice. And on one of the examples you gave was like the sales CRM. Do you have any capabilities of syncing interactions? So you have the calendar, but could you sync emails? Like do you have things like, because you have that on the comment side of things? Could I just set up like my own CRM and just sync all my emails in there?
You can. So that's the piece that we're working on right now that will be out towards the end of January. So basically you'll have an inbox that is specific to each record or contact opportunity inside.
Okay. And that's, and how would that work? Like basically could I give you access to my Gmail and then you can read and automatically assign things, or do I need to put something in BCC?
Yeah, so we're doing this in 2 phases. The comments back from our user community was pretty split on the people that wanted to give access to a product like SmartSuite to all their email, and other people that said, I don't want to, and I want you to give me an email address inside of SmartSuite that I can set an alias for. So phase 1 is just that. You come in every time, every new user that comes into the product will get their own SmartSuite email, but I could change the alias to say Jon@SmartSuite, right? So it appears that way. And now every time that I'm in a record and I send an email from here, we know which record it came from. We tie that to your email, and you can also forward that to your personal inbox. So all of your emails are still in your inbox as well also. And then anytime that you do a reply, we're smart enough to catch the reply and bring it back into the conversation in that record that you're at. Phase 2 is just what you said, which is we will allow you to connect your Gmail or Outlook account that you have, but you have to give us access to look at your emails and potentially your contacts if you want to go that far, which like traditional CRMs do. A lot of people that we talked to in our group didn't like, is about 50-50. They don't want to give that level of access to a product. So that's why we're offering the independent email first and then the second phase, which the second phase will come very quickly to be in February.
Nice.
Nice.
Cool. Then I know we already have hit the planned time limit, but we do have one more question in the chat, and then I would have one more question, one that I'm really interested in. So I think you slightly covered it in the sharing views, but Artem's asking, is there a way to share SmartSuite data with my customers if I don't want them to log into SmartSuite?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of ways that you can do that. So if I go back into any view that you create that's here and you select the fields of information that you have here, I can come up to share view. And now I'm sharing just this information that's here. So I could filter this down to a particular customer. I only want to maybe show, these 7 fields versus the 50 that are available. When the user gets this, you can send them this link. I'm going to click here, and this will show you what your customer would see. They see all of this information in the same grid format, but limited to just that data. They can come up here and sort and filter, group, but it's only related to the data that they started with that's here. So you're kind of giving them their own personal view. What is coming, we actually release this next week, is you'll have the ability to share an entire solution in a read-only state with somebody as well. So I could do a particular view. There are instances where I've created something and I just need to share this publicly. Maybe I'm a company that does events and I need all my open events to show here with registration links and everything. And I just want people to be able to click on here to see that information, maybe use a button field type that then takes them to a registration page or to a form to actually register for the event. So have both.
Really cool. Nice. Yeah, I think that would answer it for sure. Then maybe we can finish one question from my side, because I find it very fascinating, this like 2.5 year period where you guys were just building this product and then having the launch. There's obviously a lot of competitors in this space. As you mentioned, how did you guys stay focused? Were there times where you'd get distracted by new feature from X, new feature from Y? Was that something, did your roadmap have to change much in this time?
So everything that you just said is one of the reasons why we wanted to take the time to build the core platform first. And what we did is I spent the first 3 to 4 months just analyzing about 25 vendors across all the different spaces that we felt that we played in, from at the lowest level, like the form builders with Typeform and Jotform and those guys, to the collaboration tools, to the project management tools, to the relationship database tools, to integration capabilities like Make and Zapier, just kind of all the way down the stack. Yeah. We mapped out 400 data points where we looked at every feature, and then we pulled them all together to kind of see the correlation. And that became the basis of what the problem that we wanted to solve was, to bring all of these capabilities into a core platform that was there. The problem with releasing an MVP after 6 months that always happens is you start bringing customers in, and a customer says, but I need this one more feature. You stop work on the core architecture, you build that feature, and then if you're more successful, you keep building features and you don't get the core architecture done. So in our case, we thought we have to have the core architecture done that will make us easier longer term for us to add new features on top of that. But the answer was, it was a long 2.5 years. And about 1.5 years in, and you don't have any customers, and you've just been working night and day with a lot of people. Like we're very happy to be past that 2.5 year stage and actually have a couple thousand customers now.
Amazing. And yeah, we're very fortunate that you took the time to share this with us. So yeah, very exciting. And it seems like there's a lot more features coming. So we'll be definitely keeping an eye on it.
Excellent. I appreciate it. Yeah.
No worries. Jon, thank you so much for your time, and wish everyone, no matter where you are, either a good rest of the day or a good evening for us here in Europe. And yeah, bye. Have a Merry Christmas.
All right. Thanks, everyone. It was a pleasure.